The story begins in the modern culture exchange club room where we are introduced to Kejima Ryo, a third-year high school student. He is an otaku, and the biggest problem in his quiet life is nothing serious. Suddenly, Kejima bursts into the room with an expression of utter despair, shouting his friend's name, Yuta, and complaining that he spent all his game money without getting any good characters. While Kejima is suffering over the game, he fails to notice that his friend Yuta is in the middle of a romantic moment, tenderly hugging a girl. Ryu's sudden arrival startles Yuta and his girlfriend, who were caught in a private moment. The girl, feeling awkward, tells Yuta she's leaving, since he had promised they would be alone. However, Ryu barely reacts to the interruption, as a painful feeling hits him, the sensation of being left behind by his friends. In a low, sad voice, he asks Yuta since when he's had a girlfriend. Yuta apologizes and reveals they've been together for a month. Feeling completely defeated by the news, Kejima Ryo simply turns and leaves the club room, leaving his friend behind. As he walks away, Kejima finally begins to process the news. He is shocked to realize that he was so focused on his own hobbies and his favorite game character that he had no idea his best friend, Yuta, was in a relationship. Kejima's frustration explodes in a comical lament. He complains that all he ever wanted was to enjoy his otaku life with his friends, but now he feels like everyone is graduating from that lifestyle, abandoning him and leaving him all alone. Feeling utterly pathetic, he mentally combines his two great defeats of the day, his terrible luck in the game, and the discovery that his friend has a girlfriend. At that exact moment of self-pity as he stares at his phone, a new and unfamiliar voice calls out to him, "Senpai." The voice belonged to a girl who approaches Kejima along with a friend. Her friend appears to be filming with her phone and asks if he's doing that kind of thing again. Then the girl who called him senpai gets very close to him, a teasing smile on her face. She tells Kejima that he's not popular and it's because of his otaku stuff, which she finds lame. In his thoughts, he identifies her as his kohai, a younger student, and describes her as arrogant. Kejima, with a tired expression, says the girl's name in a low voice, Asahi. Her friend continues to provoke him, asking if he's going to waste his youth being an otaku. She says it's time for him to face reality. Annoyed by the comment, Kejima tells her to shut up, but Asahi continues the teasing, saying it's the other way around. She accuses him of escaping into the 2D world because he isn't popular in real life. To top it off, Asahi's friend laughs and says his hobbies are simple and just depend on luck. She is a first-year student, and she is also Kejima's childhood friend and neighbor. Asahi looks at Kejima's phone and makes a jab about the character he likes. She asks what's so great about her, suggesting it's just because of her big breasts. Kejima thinks about how Asahi has always bothered him, but he feels that this time her provocations seem different. He is deeply offended by her comment. Kejima gets offended and begins to defend his character. He explains that she is a mature woman who takes care of her friends and is very strong in battles. He also says that she only shows her feminine side to the protagonist. Asahi interrupts him, saying his otaku talk is gross and that he should stop. Kejima gets frustrated and asks a direct question. He asks why she even visits him if she thinks he's such a disgusting otaku. Asahi's response is simple. She comes for the manga and the snacks in the room. With a defiant look, Asahi continues to tease him. She says she's bringing some sparkle to his otaku room. She finishes by saying he should be grateful for it. The narration explains that the club has an official name, the Modern Culture Exchange Club, but in reality it's just a circle of otakus. Yuta returns to the room. He apologizes to Ryo and says he was planning to tell him about the relationship soon. Yuta then notices that Asahi is also there. Seeing the way Kejima and Asahi interact, Yuta makes a comment. He says, smiling, that the two of them seem very close. This leaves Kejima and Asahi very embarrassed. Kejima denies it, saying it's a rotten relationship he can't escape from. Asahi also denies it, looking very flustered by the situation. Yuta continues to tease them and turns to Asahi. He asks her if she has chosen a club yet and suggests she join there since Ryo is there. The suggestion leaves Asahi completely flustered and nervous. She denies it and tries to change the subject, visibly uncomfortable. Yuta doesn't give up and continues the teasing, saying it's Ryo's turn. Kejima protests, insisting once again that their relationship is nothing like that. Kejima gets irritated, hinking how Yuta is saying such strange things and has crossed the line with his teasing. Kejima reflects on how Asahi acts. He realizes that she is confident and provocative only with him. In front of other people, her social anxiety is so strong she can't even make eye contact. Kageyama remembers their childhood. Ever since she was a child, Asahi didn't have many friends, and he was the only one who paid attention to her. He thinks that's why she is still involved with him today. His thoughts turn more serious. He remembers that Asahi started school just a week ago and he will graduate in a year. Kageyama gets worried and thinks it would be good if she could make some friends. Kageyama turns the tables and confronts Asahi directly. He asks her, "Are you going to waste your youth being a loner too?" He warns, being a loner for 3 years is tough, you know. Hit where it hurts, Asahi becomes furious and yells, "Shut up." But Asahi attacks back angrily, shouting, "I don't want to hear that from a disgusting otaku." She continues, "Because you're definitely wasting your youth more." Kageyama tries to defend himself, saying, "I have otaku friends and I'm living a full youth." She points out, "You've never had a girlfriend. How is that living a full youth?" Asahi takes advantage of his hesitation and continues to provoke him. "Your age equals the number of years you've gone without a girlfriend." She warns, if you don't hurry up, everyone around you will start coming back to reality. To finish, she throws his own words back at him, saying sarcastically she's aggressively prying it open. Kageyama tries to defend himself, saying with irritation, "Mind your own business." He declares, "As long as I have my Oshi and my friends, I don't need a girlfriend." Asahi laughs smugly. She says, trying to act tough, then concludes, "Then there's no helping it." Asahi looks at Kageyama with a provocative and confident smile. Seeing that he continues to try and act tough, she makes him a surprising proposal. She asks with a challenging tone then, "Should I become your girlfriend?" His expression instantly changes from anger to total surprise. Asahi then adds a condition to her offer. She finishes the sentence saying, "Only if you win, senpai." Kageyama is completely confused and yells. Asahi explains with a mocking air, "This is the Pocky game, don't you get it?" She tells him the rule of the game: if you let go or break it first, you lose. He looks at the snack box and asks, "Why this kind of thing?" She then explains why she's doing this, saying it's because she feels sorry for the lonely senpai. He'll never get a real girl to pay attention to him, so she says Asahi-chan is going to give him a chance. Kageyama listens to everything in silence. He looks directly at Asahi with a sideways smile. He tells her bluntly, I've never thought of you as a woman." After saying this, he turns his back to her. With his eyes closed, he continues, "Unfortunately, I'm not interested in anyone but Saren." Kageyama tries to ignore the situation. He thinks that since she sometimes says dumb things, he shouldn't even bother with her. Suddenly, Asahi approaches Kageyama again. She tells him that because he doesn't see her as a girl, he can do this kind of thing easily. She goes on saying she has more experience and won't get self-conscious around senpai or anything like that. Kageyama accuses her, "So you're running away?" Asahi denies it, replying, "No way," but Kageyama insists, teasing, "Of course you are." Asahi launches a verbal attack on Kageyama. She hits him with a barrage of insults, calling him a disgusting otaku, a bum, unpopular, and a virgin. Her words hit Kageyama hard, as if they were physical blows. She ends the provocation by saying, "Of course a game like this would be impossible for you." The tension rises sharply. Kageyama thinks about how annoying this is and calls her a brat. Asahi, however, seems to find the situation amusing. She keeps teasing him, asking who the real child is since he got so flustered. Seeing her so confident, Kageyama decides that's enough. He thinks he can't let her get so far ahead of him. Kageyama completely changes his attitude. He looks at Asahi with a confident, provocative smile. He thinks, "That brat, I need to teach her a little lesson." Asahi then steps closer to him. He teases her, saying, Hey, you're embarrassed, aren't you?" With a determined look, he slams his hand on the table. He firmly declares, "Then I'll do it." Kageyama accepts the challenge. He moves closer to Asahi and places the other end of the Pocky in his mouth. He thinks to himself that they're much closer than he expected. He looks at Asahi and wonders why she seems so calm. He even questions if she has experience with this kind of game. Because they're so close, Kageyama starts noticing her features. He sees her long eyelashes and small face. He realizes she's actually really pretty. But the moment he thinks that, Asahi teases him. She asks if he's F. Feeling nervous, her question completely throws Kageyama off and loudly yells that he's not nervous at all. Kageyama gets frustrated with himself. He thinks he's having weird thoughts about Asahi. He remembers that if he's not careful, she'll make him look like a fool again. So to take the initiative, Kageyama bites a piece of the Pocky. He leans in aggressively toward her. He challenges her, thinking, how about this? His sudden move takes Asahi by surprise. As he does this, Kageyama is panicking on the inside. He keeps repeating to himself to have pure thoughts, trying to stay calm. Asahi, who had been so confident, completely loses her composure. Her face turns bright red and she looks totally panicked. Kageyama notices her expression and asks, "What's up with that face?" Kageyama regains his composure at the last second. With a confident smile, he flips the situation and teases Asahi. He asks if she's sure she's not the one getting flustered. His provocation sends Asahi into a complete panic. She shoves Kageyama's face away with her hand, breaking the pocky. She falls off the chair and screams in surprise, complaining about the pain from the fall. With her face still bright red, Asahi yells that she's not self-conscious around him, but Kageyama sees the truth behind her reaction. He imagines her thinking that seeing him up close was too much for her and that she was just trying not to laugh. With a teasing smile, Kageyama accuses her. He asks if in the end she ended up thinking she liked him. He ignores her denials, saying to himself, yeah, that's exactly it. Asahi gets furious at Kageyama's calmness. She yells at him, asking why he's so relaxed, but Kageyama responds confidently, saying she's losing. He tells her not to be so arrogant, but she denies having lost. He points out that her face is completely red. He also mentions that she broke the pocky and fell off the chair. With a smirk, he sarcastically wonders who could have done all that. Asahi, completely embarrassed, can only mumble. Kageyama steps closer to her with a victorious air. He declares that he won the game. Despite how she looks, she tries to deny defeat. She softly says she hasn't lost yet. He starts laughing and apologizes to Asahi, admitting he was a bit mean. He says he knows she doesn't actually like him. Then he gives her a piece of advice. He says that a game like that should be played with someone she really likes. He means it should be with someone special. Asahi is completely flustered, thinking about Kageyama's words about liking someone. She thinks that Kageyama shouldn't only look at 2D girls. She wants him to look at her sometimes too, and calls him an idiot. The next day, Kageyama leaves the house. He's still annoyed at himself for getting so flustered because of Asahi. He thinks with a tired expression that he only has one more year left of being her toy. But just as he starts walking, Asahi shows up. She calls out Kageyama-senpai. She points out that his hair is all messy. With a smile, Asahi says there's no helping it and tries to take a photo of his hair. Kageyama, looking irritated, tells her to stop. But in his thoughts, he makes a decision. He thinks that until she makes some friends, he'll keep playing around with her a little longer. With that thought, the chapter comes to an end. Later, Kageyama is thinking about his future. He is looking at a career path survey. His first choice is Meiba University, but he still hasn't decided on his second option. He realizes that now is not the time to act like an otaku and that he needs to be serious. Suddenly, Asahi appears. With a teasing look, she asks him what he has there. Kageyama looks weary and thinks that she's here again. She says she saw him alone again and mentions that she just saw Yuta with his girlfriend. Teasingly, she says it looks like Kageyama has been replaced. Kageyama gets very annoyed and shouts that he hasn't been replaced. Kageyama thinks that the other club members are working. He concludes that this girl is always pestering him about something. While he's thinking she's a brat, Asahi snatches the paper from his hands. He asks her to give it back, but she ignores him and asks what he was looking at. Asahi reads the paper and is shocked. She sees that he wants to go to Meiba University, which is a very famous and prestigious university in Tokyo. Kageyama confirms that's his choice with a confident look. Asahi starts to tease him, saying that a place like that is for cool and stylish people. She says a plain otaku like him should just go to a local university. Kageyama doesn't get annoyed by the teasing. Instead, he confidently says he's going to go to a good university, get a good job, and earn a good salary. Asahi decides to test Kageyama's intelligence. She takes out 2 dice and asks him a question. She asks what the smallest possible sum is when looking at the dice from above. Kageyama, thinking it's a simple question, answers that the SU M is 2 and asks if she's messing with him. But Asahi, with a teasing look, says he's wrong. She reveals the correct answer is 1, showing the dice stacked on top of each other. It was a trick question. Kageyama gets very frustrated and yells that she tricked him. Meanwhile, she makes fun of him for not being able to solve such a simple question. Asahi teasingly calls him an idiot. The teasing continues, with other people saying that even kids can solve the question. Kageyama, very annoyed, tells them to stop. He gets very frustrated and thinks that she's making him look like a fool. She says that at this rate, getting into Meiba University will be impossible. Kageyama finds Asahi's math test. He sees that she got a very bad score, only 33 points. Asahi completely panics when she sees that he's found it. Kageyama is surprised and says that she still had the nerve to make fun of him. He starts teasing her back. He asks her how she even managed to get into this high-level school. He even asks jokingly if she bribed someone. Very embarrassed, Asahi tries to make an excuse. She yells that she was just feeling a little sick that day. She insists that if she were at her best, the test would have been easy. Kageyama doesn't seem to believe her and asks if she's sure. Kageyama decides to test Asahi again. He asks her a new question, this time a math one. He rolls 2 dice and asks for the probability of getting the same number on both. Kageyama teases her, saying that if she's at her best, the question should be easy. Asahi, feeling very pressured, yells that it's easy. The scene ends with Asahi trying to solve the problem. She looks very focused, writing and looking at the dice. Kageyama watches Asahi trying to solve the math problem. He is shocked to see that she's trying to figure out the result manually without using any formula. Kageyama gets very frustrated with her lack of skill. He tells her that's enough and that the question is elementary school level. Asahi, very angry, yells that you can live just fine without using math. Kageyama thinks that this is the classic excuse of someone who's bad at math. He tells her she can't even do basic math and that she should go back to elementary school. Kageyama, tired of the teasing, decides he's going to teach her a lesson. He takes his own test out of his bag to show her his results. Asahi is completely shocked when she sees his scores. Kageyama, very annoyed, yells that he ranked second and tells her not to make a fool out of him. He looks at Asahi, who is in despair, and thinks that he needs to be this harsh. He believes that with her, if he isn't, she'll never learn. After the confrontation, the room falls silent for a moment. Kageyama, now calmer, looks at Asahi with a look of concern. He tells her that if she falls behind in her studies, it's going to be very difficult for her from now on. He reminds her that she's never been good at studying. Then he asks a direct and serious question. He asks why she tried so hard to go to his school. She says she tried so hard because she wanted to go to the same place as Senpai. Asahi's confession leaves Kageyama completely shocked. Kageyama, in turn, is speechless. He thinks that she followed him and forced herself to get into this difficult school even though she isn't good at studying. He realizes that all her teasing was just a facade. He understands she was denying her true feelings. Kageyama completely turns the tables. He asks how much she wants to be with him. Asahi, completely embarrassed, yells that he's wrong and tells him to stop jumping to conclusions. She tries to make an excuse, saying it's good to have someone she knows around. She says it's useful, like when she forgets something, and says it has no special meaning, that it's just for convenience. He reminds her that after all, he is her only friend. Asahi is surprised and realizes he wasn't hearing what she was really trying to say. Kageyama, ignoring her confession, reminds her that she has to retake the test. Asahi, very frustrated with his reaction, loses her patience. She yells out loud, "Senpai, you idiot." Kageyama, also annoyed, yells back at her. I just told you not to call me an idiot again." After the argument, the scene changes. Kageyama is now helping Asahi study. As he watches her, he thinks to himself that she's not cute at all. A new girl appears in the scene. She is looking at the school's results board. The board shows that Kageyama ranked second in the entire year. This new girl, Miyazono Karin, took first place, but she doesn't seem happy about it. Later, the top student, Miyazono Karin, approaches him. She asks if she can talk to him for a second. Kageyama is completely surprised by this. He wonders if he did something. Karin takes Kageyama to an empty classroom. Kageyama, still very confused, asks her if he did something wrong. Karin tells him the exam was a disappointment. She says she thought that this time he was going to beat her. She turns to him and asks how long he plans on making her wait. Then, with a very intense look, she asks him a direct question. She asks if he likes losing that much. Kageyama is completely panicked and speechless. Kageyama, very annoyed, thinks that he doesn't like losing, not at all. But he doesn't say it out loud because it would be too embarrassing. Instead, he mumbles that his grades are none of her business, and that he'll get serious about his studies when it's time for the university entrance exams. Karin, however, is not impressed. She tells him he's boring. Kageyama then remembers something. He asks her if she remembers who won the final test of their first year. He says he won that one time. For her part, Karin remembers it was the first time in her life she had ever lost at anything. Karin looks at Kageyama intently. She asks her about his otaku hobbies. Kageyama, very shocked, asks her how she knows about that. Karin explains that she knows he's the club president and that he seems to be having a lot of fun. However, she also knows that he hasn't submitted a single activity report. She reminds him that the school requires 1 report per month. Kageyama, very embarrassed, can only apologize. Then Karin takes his hand and makes him a proposal. She tells him that if he loses to her in the next test, his club will be shut down. Kageyama is shocked by Karin's bet. At the same time, Asahi is peeking through the door. She gets jealous seeing them so close. Kageyama tries to accept the challenge. She thinks Karen is very mature, exactly the type of girl Kageyama would like. Suddenly, Karen pushes Kageyama. He falls onto a sofa. Kageyama is completely stunned and speechless. Karen gets even closer to him. She tells him she'll do whatever he says. While this is happening, Asahi is still peeking through the door. She panics upon seeing the scene. Kageyama yells at Karen, telling her not to say vague things because people might get the wrong idea. Karen, however, remains calm. She clarifies that it could be anything he wants. She gives a few examples like buying lunch or making a silly face. Karen sees how nervous Kageyama is and keeps teasing him. With a mischievous smile, she asks if he was thinking of something naughty. Kageyama, completely flustered, immediately denies it. Kageyama feels utterly defeated. He thinks about how he's been losing to Karen in academics this whole time. And now he feels like he's being completely crushed by her in this situation too. He refuses to give up. He stands up and looks straight at Karen. First, he agrees to her bet, saying fine. Then he declares loudly that he accepts her challenge. Karen asks if her promise to do whatever he says influenced him. Kageyama, clearly annoyed, denies it and says it's a matter of pride. He says he's protecting his otaku lifestyle and that he's not interested in any girl other than his favorite character. She agrees with a sure, but then throws in a provocative question. She says she felt like he was looking at her chest earlier. Kageyama is completely caught off guard by the question. He tries to make an excuse saying it's just biology and that guys' eyes naturally go there even if they're not interested. She replies that he was thinking something naughty then. She teases him saying he's the type of quiet pervert. Kageyama, totally embarrassed and irritated, reacts impulsively. He tells her that if she doesn't want people to look, maybe she should zip up her jacket. After that outburst, Kageyama runs away. He yells, "You later," and dashes out of the room. After a moment, her expression changes. With a smile and a curious look, she says to herself that Kageyama is quite interesting. Meanwhile, Kageyama is in a full panic. Thinking about what he just did with Karen, he realizes he acted purely on instinct. He reflects that every time Asahi annoys him, his body just reacts. He then sees Asahi sitting on the floor, looking sad. Surprised, he asks her what she's doing sitting there. Asahi has a very angry expression. She confronts Kageyama, asking what he was doing with that girl. Kageyama tells her to stop spying on people and tries to deny everything, saying they weren't doing anything. But Asahi doesn't believe him. She accuses him of acting all cutesy with Karen and smiling like an idiot. She yells at him, asking if Karen is his type. Then Asahi challenges Kageyama. She says she wants to have a competition with him too. Kageyama is very surprised by her request. Asahi then explains the rules of the bet. She says that whoever loses will have to do whatever the winner says. Kageyama is confused and refuses the proposal, but Asahi doesn't take no for an answer. She stands up, grabs him, and says it doesn't matter, he's doing it. She tells him to make sure he's free after school. As Kageyama protests, Asahi runs off. Leaving him behind, he ends up going with Asahi to a game arcade. He thinks that, as always, she's just doing whatever she wants. Asahi announces that it will be a best-of-3 competition. Kageyama realizes she set all this up just because she wanted to play. With a resigned expression, he decides to go along with it for a while. The first competition is announced. Asahi says they'll start right there with a rhythm game. Looking very confident, Asahi says she's super good at it. Kageyama asks if that's really true. She then announces she'd choose the highest difficulty, extreme. Kageyama is shocked and wonders if she's really that good. The game begins and Asahi starts playing at an incredible speed. Kageyama, on the other hand, seems to be struggling. He can't keep up and wonders what's going on. The game ends and the results appear. Kageyama, a seasoned otaku, wins by a large margin. He tells Asahi that she had him worried. Thinking she was actually good, Asahi is completely shocked and in tears over her loss. Some girls nearby witness the scene. They get a bad impression of Kageyama and say he made a girl cry, embarrassed. By the situation, Kageyama picks up Asahi. He tells her to stop crying and that they're moving on to the next challenge. The next challenge is a zombie shooting game. Asahi is terrified of the zombies and starts screaming. Seeing her so scared, Kageyama decides to lose on purpose. He does it so she'll stop crying and feel better. During the game, he tries to calm her down. The game ends and Asahi wins by a large margin. Kageyama, looking tired, congratulates her on the victory. Asahi, no longer crying and looking triumphant, teases him. She mockingly asks if he wasn't supposed to be good at these kinds of games. Overjoyed with her win, Asahi starts making fun of Kageyama. She laughs and calls him a loser. Her teasing continues as she whispers in his ear that he's a loser. Kageyama, who lost on purpose, becomes very irritated by her attitude. He thinks his kindness ends there. The third and final challenge is a racing game. Now very determined, Kageyama plans to totally crush her. He's confident he'll win. Asahi, on the other hand, looks very confused by the game controls. She innocently asks if one of the pedals is the accelerator. The race begins. Kageyama, an experienced gamer, is sure of his victory. He thinks there's no way he'll lose to Asahi, a total beginner. He laughs, thinking it's too bad for her, but the race doesn't go as Kageyama expected. Asahi, looking smug, overtakes him and says it's too bad for him. Kageyama is furious. During the race, they exchange provocations. Asahi throws items at him to slow him down, and Kageyama accuses her of being lucky. He refuses to let her keep mocking him. Asahi, on the other hand, is having a blast. Determined not to lose, Kageyama decides to use his trump card. He uses his game knowledge to find a shortcut. He knows this will secure his win. The shortcut puts him in the lead, and he overtakes Asahi. She's completely shocked and asks what path that is. Kageyama, smug, reveals there's a shortcut on the course. Asahi is furious and accuses him of cheating, but Kageyama denies it, saying it's not cheating, it's strategy. He tells her it's her fault for challenging him. Kageyama is about to win the race. He feels certain of his victory. He mockingly says goodbye to Asahi. In desperation, Asahi yells for him to wait. She reaches out her hand and screams for him to stop. In a last effort, she jumps from her seat. She clings to him, shouting that he can't win. The scene continues with Asahi, who is in complete desperation. Her face is very close to Kageyama's, and her eyes are filled with tears. She keeps shouting that he can't win. She begs him to wait. Asahi, in despair, presses herself tightly against Kageyama. Kageyama hesitates for a moment, surprised by how close she is. He becomes very embarrassed and his face turns bright red. After that, the scene changes. They are now leaving the arcade together. Asahi, very cheerful, declares that she won the competition. Kageyama, on the other hand, is very annoyed with himself. He can't understand why he got so flustered. It's just Asahi, she calls him, but he replies in a curt tone. As they walk together, Asahi says the day felt like a date. Smiling, she asks him if it wasn't fun. He denies it was a date and says he was just keeping her company. She teasingly asks if he's embarrassed. Kageyama, in turn, feels completely defeated. He thinks the day was a total loss for him. Since he lost the bet, Kageyama asks what he has to do. He's prepared for something humiliating like becoming her servant. However, Asahi seems hesitant. Instead of giving him an order, she says, looking embarrassed, well, you know, smiling. Asahi doesn't tell him what she wants. She says it's still a secret. Kageyama becomes impatient and tells her to just say it, but she insists she's saving it for when it really matters. Suddenly, a car pulls up next to them. Inside is Karen, his academic rival. She calls out to Kageyama with a very serious expression. She tells him that it looks like she'll have to make him take things seriously. The new chapter begins in the club room. Kageyama's friends are having a big argument. One of them, Yutaka, is very excited and insists they should go to a concert. The other friend, however, the two of them start arguing, each trying to convince the other. They're arguing about Kageyama's plans. Yuta wants him to go to the Kurepper concert, while the other friend wants him to attend the store and meet. Kageyama, caught in the middle of the argument, gets really stressed. With a desperate expression, he yells that he's not going to either. Kageyama's friends are very surprised. They ask why he doesn't want to go, especially during Golden Week, which is a holiday week. Kageyama explains that they have a test coming up, and it would be bad if he didn't study. His friend doesn't understand his concern. He says Kageyama always comes in second place and doesn't need to try so hard. Kageyama, however, knows the real issue. He still hasn't told them about the bet he made with Karen, but his friends won't leave him alone. They grab him and tell him to forget about studying, trying to drag him off to have fun. Kageyama's friends keep trying to convince him. One of them tries to bribe him with a yakiniku dinner. The other reminds him that his favorite author is releasing a new book. The argument between them continues. One defends cute 3D girls while the other prefers his author's new releases. Kageyama, stuck in the middle of the argument, feels tempted. He wonders if he could just escape for one day. But in the end, his sense of responsibility wins out. He opens the door and firmly says that if he has to choose, he'll choose to study. However, just as Kageyama prepares to leave, he gets a big surprise. Karen Mizono, the student council president, dramatically enters the room. She announces to everyone that Kageyama has an important match with her. Kageyama and his friends are completely shocked to see her there. They can't believe that the famous Karen Mizono is in their club room. To finish, Karen looks directly at Kageyama. She asks him with an authoritative tone if what she said isn't true. Kageyama's friends ask Karen why she's there. Get very distracted by her presence and think she's really cute. Karen, with a serious expression, says she came to clean the club room. They are very confused by what she said. Karen realizes his friends don't know anything and asks Kageyama if he still hasn't told them. Then, with a very serious tone, she makes an announcement. She says that the Modern Culture Exchange Club is going to be dissolved. Kageyama's friends, who didn't know about the bet, are completely shocked. They panic and ask him what's going on. Kageyama tries to calm them down and explains that it's just a small bet. He tells them that if he gets a higher score on the next test, the club will stay. While they're arguing, Karen is looking at the club's shelves. She notices that instead of school books, the shelves are filled with manga. With an authoritative air, she calls another girl, Sumo. She orders her to get rid of the entire shelf. The girl agrees and starts removing the books. Kageyama, in complete despair, begs them to wait. Karen starts inspecting the club's belongings. Kageyama tries to stop her, but she keeps going. She finds magazines and games and tells them that those are not allowed at school. Kageyama gets very flustered and doesn't know what to say. Then Karen gives a very clear order. She tells them to get rid of everything. Her assistant, Sumyugi, starts throwing things away. Karen declares that anything that distracts from studying must be discarded. She starts tossing magazines and games aside. Kageyama, in a full panic, realizes what's happening. He thinks that at this rate, the club room is going to be completely taken over by her. Kageyama, very irritated, confronts Karen. He asks her what she's doing barging in like that. He says he's been studying just fine without her having to go that far. Karen, however, doesn't seem to believe him. She looks at him with suspicion. She tells him she saw him coming out of an arcade the other day. She asks mockingly if he also has time for concerts and fan meets. Kageyama, flustered, tries to make an excuse. Karen gets closer to him and says she doesn't want to have a boring match. Kageyama is confused and asks what she means by that. Karen explains what she meant. She tells him with a very serious expression that the way he is now, he's not even a real opponent for her. Her words are very harsh and leave Kageyama completely shocked. He's speechless, not knowing how to respond. He realizes that she's completely looking down on him. He feels very humiliated. Karen continues her cleaning of the club. She picks up Kageyama's phone and sees that he has a game installed. With a look of disdain, she says that's also unnecessary and asks if she should. Uninstall it, Kageyama's friends protest. They say his favorite character is in that game, but Karen doesn't care. She says that's even more reason to delete it. The situation becomes very tense. Kageyama's friends try to stop her, but she pushes them. Aside, she tells them to get out of her way. In the middle of the chaos, there's a shove and the sound of things falling. Kageyama loses his balance and falls forward. He ends up falling on top of Karen. His friends, who had been arguing, are completely shocked. They can't believe what they're seeing. The room falls into total silence. Still under him is the first to break the silence. She looks at him, surprised, and says his name. Karen, seeing Kageyama's reaction, asks him if he's angry, saying that he's not a child anymore. Then he reaches his hand out toward her. Karen is startled by his gesture, but Kageyama doesn't touch her. Instead, he grabs her phone with a quick motion. He deletes the game app. Still on top of her, Kageyama shows her the phone. He tells her with a serious expression that he deleted the app. Then he begins to get up, moving away from her. He explains that he did it because she made him take the competition seriously. Kageyama looks at Karen with a very serious and confident smile. With a challenging tone, he tells her to get ready. Meanwhile, one of his friends asks if his game data is okay. Kageyama says everything's fine. The scene focuses on Karen, who is completely embarrassed and flustered. Kageyama's friends, now cheering for him, tell him he's definitely going to win. They're surprised that he sealed away his own game to focus. Meanwhile, Karen's assistant asks if she's okay. Karen, however, is still completely flustered and embarrassed. She can't believe Kageyama's sudden seriousness and wonders, what's gotten into him? At the clubroom door, a notice only 2 weeks left until the test.